Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat. In this session, we would look at objectives and responsibilities of the service auditor. In the prior session, we looked at the responsibilities of the service organization, the company that provides services to user entities. Now, those service organization needs an auditor. They need an auditor to do what? Well, what's the objective of the auditor? To issue an opinion. So in this session, we're going to look at the objectives. The objectives of a service auditor in a SOC engagement, whether it's a 1, 2, or 3, revolve around providing what? An opinion, a reasonable assurance, passing an opinion on certain aspect of the service organization systems and control based on established criteria. That's basically what the final product of the service auditor is, to provide reasonable assurance about something, give an opinion, given reasonable assurance. Now, what do service auditor provides an opinion about? Now, we're going to be repeating the same thing that we repeat in prior session, but again, repetition is the mother of learning. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com.
Farhat Accounting Lectures is a supplemental educational tool that's going to help you with your CPA exam preparation as well as your accounting courses. My CPA material is aligned with your CPA review course such as Becker, Roger, Wiley, Gleam, Miles. My accounting courses are aligned with your accounting courses broken down by chapter and topics. My resources consist of lectures, multiple choice questions, true-false questions, as well as exercises. Go ahead, start your free trial today.
So, one is the fair presentation of the description. The auditor aims to verify that the description provided by management accurately represents the service organization system as it was designed and implemented, either throughout a specified period, a type 2 opinion, or a specific date, type 1 report. So the fair presentation of the description and this objectives ensures that the information provided by management truly reflect the actual system in place, helping stakeholders, whoever is interested, in trusting the description provided by the service organization. That's one. So the description. 2, the designs of the control. The auditor assess whether the control related to the objectives outlined in management description were suitably designed, the suitability of the control during a specified period, type 2 report, or a particular date, type 1 report. Evaluating the design, make sure that they are capable of meeting the specified objective if they operate as intended. So we look at the description, then the design of the control, the suitability design of the control. Again, either a type 1 for a particular date or a type 2 for a period of time. And you guessed it. What's the third objective? The operation of control. If it's included in the engagement scope, well, simply put, we're looking at type 2. The auditor evaluates whether the control operated effectively throughout a specified period. So we need to determine also whether the controls are operated effectively. Now, this is a type 2 engagement. This is ensure they provided reasonable assurance that the objectives stated in management descriptions are met. And this checks the effectiveness of the control, not only the description, not only the design. So type 1, what we looked in on the prior 2 slides, we looked at the description of the control, we looked at the design. Now we looked at the effectiveness. Those two are type 1, effectiveness is type 2. And at the end of the day, what do we need to do? Whether it's a SOC 1, SOC 2, type 1, type 2, we need to issue a report. Based on the finding from the audit, the auditor reports whether the organization system and controls were presented fairly, designed suitably. This is, again, present fairly, designed suitably. This is usually a type 1, and operated effectively, type 2 report. So this basically summarizes the audit process where the auditor communicates the result to the stakeholder, providing them with an assessment of the service organization control environment as per the audit criteria. And as I mentioned when we looked at the audit report, what I said is this: if you can go over the audit report, read the audit report, and understand everything in the audit report, basically you understand everything you need to understand for SOC 1, SOC 2, type 1, type 2 engagement. Why? Because the audit process is summarized in the audit report. So if you read the audit report and understand the audit report, then you're good. Because in the audit report, we talk about management responsibilities. In the audit report, we talk about the auditor's responsibilities. In the audit report, we looked at the criteria. In the audit report, we define what's a type 1, what's type 2. How exactly did we perform the audit? What are the tests that we performed, the inherent limitation, so on and so forth. The responsibilities of a service auditor during the planning phase of any system and organization control SOC engagement include critical steps. What are those critical steps? First, we would take a look to see if the engagement is suitable for us. We draft engagement terms, and we outline the responsibility of the service auditor. Let's take a look at each one of those separately. Responsibility of the service auditor. The first thing we do is determine whether we should take on the client or not. The auditor decides whether to accept a new engagement or continue with an ongoing one based on factors like risk, the organization's integrity, and the auditor capacities and expertise. So first, for all audit 1, 2, or 3, we have to determine that suitability. This step is about ensuring that the auditor is the right fit for the job, and that the engagement align with the professional standard and ethical guidelines. Simply put, we don't want to associate ourselves with clients that lacks integrity. If it's a new client, we investigate them. If it's an ongoing client, we double check to see if we should keep on going with the engagement. That's 1. 2, we have to have engagement term, basically an agreement outlining what we are responsible for, what you are responsible for. The auditor and the client agree on the terms of the engagement, which define the scope, objective, and expectation from both sides to ensure clarity and mutual understanding. We have to set clear terms to help prevent misunderstanding and ensure that both parties are aware of their roles and responsibilities. This is how you keep people accountable. Keep yourself accountable, keep the other party accountable. Engagement terms. In the engagement terms, the service auditor responsibility are to conduct the audit and report finding. And I told you this earlier. This is the objective, but you spell this out in the engagement term. The responsible party, typically the management of the service organization, must ensure the accurate presentation of the systems and control and provide a rep letter confirming the completeness and accuracy of the information provided. And eventually we would look at a representation letter. And these steps establish the responsibilities and ensure accountability and clarify what's expected from each party, reducing the risk of understanding. This is the whole purpose of the engagement terms, the engagement letter, basically. Also, we will identify the criteria. This involves defining the benchmark or standard against which the system or control will be assessed. These criteria are used to measurement tool, evaluate or disclose the information concerning the subject matter of the audit. And I hope you remember this. This is essential for ensuring that the audit has a clear benchmark for evaluation. We need a benchmark. We need a standard, providing a structured approach to assessing the organization's control. Now, we're conducting this engagement according to the attestation standard. We have to spell this out. The agreement should acknowledge that the audit will be performed according to the attestation standard set by the AICPA. It should also recognize the inherent limitations of an engagement, acknowledging that while the audit aims to provide reasonable assurance, it does not guarantee absolute assurance. Again, we put this in the agreement, we put this in the engagement letter, we put this in the final report as well. Everything that we're mentioning here, it's also in the final report. I know we keep repeating the same information, but from a different angle. Again, repetition is the mother of learning. Agreeing to follow AICPA standards ensures the audit adhere to professional and ethical guidelines, enhancing the reliability and credibility of the audit. Also, in the engagement letter, the auditor should request that management provide a written representation. That's important. This assertion is a formal statement by management affirming the fairness and accuracy of the presentation of the system and the effectiveness of the control. They have to provide us the assertions. They have to tell us about the system description, the assertion. They have to provide a written assertion, management written assertion. This requirement emphasizes management involvement and their commitment to the accuracy and completeness of the information being audited. It forms a part of the evidential matter necessary for the audit. We need that. Without that, we cannot conduct an attestation engagement. The management will have to provide a written assertion about the description, the design, the suitability of the design of the control. The auditor must also reach an agreement with management on providing a written assertion, and we have to understand this written assertion. This assertion should state that the management description of the system is fairly presented, and that the design and, if applicable, operation of the controls, which is a type 2, are suitable for achieving the specified objective. The agreement on a written assertion is important for holding management accountable for the representation of the systems and control, because you are passing a judgment. So the auditor will have to understand those assertions, because if they don't understand them, how they can pass a judgment. Risk assessment. This is specific to financial reporting and is essential to identifying areas where financial information could be misstated. So understanding the system and criteria for SOC 1, this thorough understanding is critical to make sure the audit is effectively tailored to the specific context and requirement of the organization. If it's SOC 1, remember it's internal control over financial reporting. How about planning for SOC 2 and SOC 3? During the planning of SOC 2 and SOC 3, the service auditor has specific responsibilities that help ensure a thorough and effective audit. Here, establishing an engagement strategy. The auditor sets the scope, timing, and direction of the audit, outlining the engagement plan. This includes consideration of materiality, which we'll talk about later, identifying potential risk, which we'll talk about those later. So the planning phase, we're going to have a separate recording about the materiality, how materiality is set, how do we assess risk. But here we're discussing, in general, planning for SOC 2 and SOC 3. And this step is crucial as it lays the groundwork for the entire audit process. Just like a financial audit, there's a planning phase. What do we do in this planning phase? We're going to figure that out later. It involves making key decisions on how the audit will be conducted, what areas will be covered, and when various aspects of the audit will be performed. Nature, timing, and extent. Hopefully you remember this. Nature, timing, and extent of the audit. This strategy is essential for organizing and directing the audit efficiently and effectively. Also, as part of planning SOC 2 and SOC 3, we perform risk assessment procedures. We're going to have a separate recording, maybe 2 of them, about risk assessment. For SOC 2 specifically, the auditor conducts risk assessment to understand the service organization system, because we cannot audit everything. We have to assess the risk and plan based on that risk assessment. So it's a risk-based approach. The auditor evaluates how the system controls were designed, implemented, and operated to verify they meet the service organization commitment and requirement based on, in SOC 2 and SOC 3, trust services criteria. By understanding the design, implementation, and operation, the auditor can identify areas where there might be weaknesses or gap. Why? Because you cannot audit everything. You cannot take a look at everything. So you assess the risk, you pinpoint the weaknesses, you pinpoint the gaps, and you focus on those. Risk-based approach. This detailed risk assessment helps in focusing the audit effort on areas that are most crucial for ensuring the reliability and security of the services organization as per trust service criteria, since we're talking about SOC 2 and SOC 3. Again, we're going to look at those steps much more in details risk assessment in the next few sessions. And this is a critical step to ensuring that the auditor can provide a reasonable assurance. In order to provide any reasonable assurance, you have to audit. You cannot audit everything. So risk assessment is part of it. Reasonable assurance about the organization's control and their effectiveness in meeting the specified objective. As I always mention, don't take the Information Systems and Controls exam, CPA, unless you have took your audit exam, because those are the same steps in a traditional audit. Risk assessment, planning the audit, executing the audit, issuing a report. Same exact concept. Matter of fact, it's the same because audit is an attestation engagement. This is an attestation engagement. However, it's a SOC 2 or a SOC 1 attestation engagement. The audit that we learn about is a financial statement audit. The concept is exactly the same. Let's take a look at this multiple choice question from farhatlectures.com. A service organization is planning to undergo a SOC 2 engagement. Which of the following would be the primary focus of the auditor risk assessment procedures? When we're dealing with a SOC 2 engagement, what is SOC 2 engagement is all about? Trust services criteria. Okay. The organization financial reporting accuracy. Is this a concern, a focus for SOC 2? Now, the organization financial reporting accuracy may be a traditional audit. We don't even call it accuracy. We don't have, in case the company wants financial reporting accuracy, if what they mean by this is GAAP, our financial statements according to GAAP, then yeah, that's a traditional audit. That's out. It's not SOC 2. The effectiveness of internal control over financial reporting. That is a SOC 1 engagement. The effectiveness of internal control over financial reporting is a SOC 1 engagement. How the organization system control met the service commitment based on trust services criteria. That's exactly SOC 2. That's exactly what a SOC 2. The primary focus of the auditor risk assessment procedure for SOC 2 is the systems control meeting the service commitment based on the trust services criteria, which are what? Security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. Just to make sure that D is not the right answer, D says the organization compliance with international financial reporting standard. Yes, that's an audit, but that's a traditional audit also according to the IFRS. Those are the standards. So I would say A is indeed financial accuracy. What's meant is GAAP. So the answer is C, not the others, because SOC 2 engagement deals with what? SOC 2 engagement deals with the trust services criteria. C is the answer. I know this question, I think it's a straightforward question. And the reason I put straightforward question at the end because is this. Knowing the basic information for the exam, you will be ready. But on Farhat Lectures MCQ, we don't teach you the basic, we teach you more than the basics. So on the exam day, you are ready. Go to Farhat Lectures, look at additional MCQs, additional resources, lectures, simulations. That's going to help you do what? Be prepared for the information systems and control exam. Invest in yourself. Good luck, study hard, and of course, stay safe.